Welcome back everyone, and thank you for joining us today as we dive into another fascinating journey through the world of rare coins, era coins, and incredible stories behind pieces of history that most people overlook in their daily lives. And today's spotlight is on the legendary 1953 D wheat penny, a coin that in ordinary condition might not raise an eyebrow since billions of wheat pennies were struck across different years. But in this unique case, the 1953 D wheat penny has become the subject of immense fascination because of its extraordinary combination of errors, mistakes, and minting anomalies that make it not just rare but practically one of a kind. And that is why collectors and investors alike have valued this special coin at an unbelievable $199 million. And in this script we will explore in immense detail what makes this penny so valuable, the specific types of errors it contains, why errors from this year and mint location are especially intriguing, how such mistakes even happen during production, and the many possibilities collectors consider when judging its value. So sit back and enjoy as we unravel a story that blends history, chance, craftsmanship, and luck into a coin that could change someone's life forever if they found it tucked away in a drawer, a jar of loose change, or a forgotten collection handed down from family. Because believe it or not, stories like these continue to surface where someone discovers what they think is just an ordinary cent only to learn that it carries a fortune's worth of value due to hidden details most people would never notice. And when it comes to the 1953 D wheat penny, we are dealing with a Denver Mint issue, which is already a point of intrigue because the Denver Mint was known for striking huge numbers of coins but also had moments where production speed led to errors. And those errors today are exactly what collectors hunt for, from double dies to repunched mint marks, off-center strikes, die cracks, clipped planches, and even lamination flaws, all of which can transform a single cent into a prized treasure. And in the case of this $199 million example, we are told that it contains an extremely rare quadruple combination of errors that in theory should never have occurred together, yet somehow did. And that combination is what elevates it to such astronomical value, with the first error being a dramatic double die obverse where Lincoln's portrait shows clear doubling in the date, the motto, "In God We Trust," and the word liberty, making the features bold and distorted in a way that is unmistakable to anyone who looks closely. The second error being a repunched mint mark where the D from Denver was punched into the die more than once and at slightly different angles, creating a shadow-like effect that is highly desirable. The third error being a significant off-center strike where the coin's design is shifted by more than 25%, exposing blank planchette area and making it an eye-catching anomaly. And the fourth error being a dramatic die crack stretching across Lincoln's face and through the rim, giving the coin a flawed but fascinating character. And when you combine all of these errors into a single coin, especially from a popular wheat penny year like 1953 D, the result is something so unique that collectors are willing to place astronomical bids for the chance to own it. And beyond the specific technical errors, there are also speculative stories about how such a coin could have slipped through quality control at the mint, with some suggesting it may have been struck intentionally by a mint worker either as an experiment or as a curiosity piece, while others argue it was pure chance, a once-in-a-billion mistake caused by a chaotic moment in the production process. And either way, the mystique around its origins only adds to its allure. And what makes it even more fascinating is that wheat pennies themselves already have an enormous fan base because they mark a bygone era of US coinage when the reverse design still showed two wheat stalks framing the denomination, a design that lasted from 1909 to 1958 before the transition to the Lincoln Memorial reverse. And this nostalgia alone draws collectors. But when you attach rare errors from Denver in the early 1950s, you enter a whole new realm of desirability. And another possibility that collectors often discuss is whether this 1953 D-era penny could have been part of a very tiny batch of experimental strikes or misstruck planches that were never meant to leave the mint, but somehow one or a handful escaped, making them virtually impossible to find today. And if just one confirmed specimen exists, its value skyrockets because it is not simply an error but a unique artifact of minting history. And to think that such a coin, a mere penny, could command nearly $200 million is a reminder of how unpredictable and thrilling the world of numismatics can be. And while to the untrained eye it might look like just another worn copper coin, under magnification and expert analysis its secrets are revealed. From the doubled lettering to the off-center strike to the mint mark anomalies and surface cracks, every tiny imperfection tells part of the story. And the beauty of it is that no two era coins are exactly alike, which is why advanced collectors are constantly on the hunt for dramatic varieties that nobody else has, because owning something unique gives not just financial value but also historical pride. And the 1953 D-Wheat penny, valued at $199 million, sits at the very top of this pyramid of desirability. And while it is tempting to believe these valuations are exaggerated, the truth is that the coin market has repeatedly proven its willingness to pay incredible sums for rare pieces, as seen in auctions where famous era coins, early mint issues, or unique one-offs have fetched tens of millions. And when wealthy collectors enter bidding wars, the numbers can soar beyond belief. So imagining this 1953 D-Wheat penny commanding $199 million is not impossible when you consider the mixture of rarity, historical importance, and competitive collecting. And we must also recognize that errors like die cracks and doubled dies often serve as windows into the actual conditions of the mint during that year, because they reveal how overworked dies, manual punching mistakes, or misaligned presses all played a role, and so beyond. Financial speculation. Such coins also serve as forensic evidence of the mint's operations, which historians and researchers deeply value. And another fascinating angle is that wheat pennies from the 1950s often turn up in circulation to this day, meaning it is not outside the realm of possibility that someone unknowingly has such a coin sitting in a jar. And while the chances of stumbling upon the $199 million example are astronomically low, the thought itself excites treasure hunters and everyday people who check their change with hope. And this is part of why era coin videos and discussions have become so popular, because they keep alive the dream that one simple penny could be a ticket to life-changing fortune. And going even deeper, one has to appreciate the craftsmanship that was supposed to define the US Mint, where precision and consistency were goals, yet human error and mechanical stress inevitably introduced flaws, and those flaws have now become treasures, which is ironic but also poetic. And when it comes to this 1953 D case, even the way the copper has aged, with natural toning and patina developing over decades, adds a layer of uniqueness that collectors consider when valuing it. And while some might debate whether the figure of $199 million is realistic, others argue that in the world of high-stakes collecting, where billionaires seek unique items, such a price is actually conservative, because rarity combined with historical resonance is priceless. And this is why experts always advise people to look carefully at their old wheat pennies, to use magnification, to learn about known varieties, and to consult experts if something unusual is spotted, because the numismatic world thrives on discovery, and who knows, the next groundbreaking coin might be sitting unnoticed in a showbox somewhere. And as we think about the 1953 D-Wheat penny, we must also remember that the Denver Mint struck more than 700 million of them that year. So on the surface nothing about it should be rare, but it is precisely that abundance that makes the discovery of a spectacular era even more extraordinary, like finding a needle in a mountain-sized haystack. And that scarcity combined with dramatic visual errors is what drives up the value. So as you can see, the story of this coin is not just about copper and cents. It is about history, mystery, human imperfection, collector passion, and the endless possibilities that lie in the smallest details. Next, 1952 D-Wheat penny, where we uncover stories of everyday pocket change that can turn out to be worth unimaginable fortunes. And today we are going to focus on a coin that has stunned collectors, historians, and investors alike. A coin so special that it has been valued at a jaw-dropping $182 million, and that is none other than the extraordinary 1952 D-Wheat penny. A coin minted in Denver that under normal circumstances would be one of the hundreds of millions of copper cents struck during the early 1950s and probably overlooked by most people. But this particular specimen is no ordinary penny because it contains a perfect storm of minting errors and mistakes that have catapulted its value into the stratosphere, making it one of the most talked about coins in the entire world of numismatics. And in today's script we will explore exactly why this 1952 D-Wheat penny is so valuable, what kinds of minting errors it carries, how these errors happen, why collectors go crazy for them, what possibilities exist about how such a coin could have slipped through the mint, and why it continues to capture the imagination of treasure hunters and coin lovers everywhere. So grab your seat and join us on this journey through history, rarity, and fortune, because by the end of this story you will understand why something as small and seemingly ordinary as a penny can be worth $182 million. The 1952 D-Wheat penny comes from the Denver Mint, a facility known for producing large mintages but also infamous for small mistakes that sometimes occurred during times of heavy production. And in 1952 alone the Denver Mint struck hundreds of millions of pennies, most of them perfectly ordinary. But every now and then a mistake would happen on the die, on the planchette, or in the striking process, and those mistakes have today become the treasures that collectors chase. And the 1952 D example we are talking about here is said to contain multiple extremely rare errors all combined into a single coin, which is one of the main reasons it is valued so astronomically, because it is not just one error variety but a combination so unusual that experts believe it may be unique or nearly unique. And the first error that makes this coin stand out is a dramatic double die obverse where Lincoln's portrait, the date 1952, the motto, "In God We Trust," and the word liberty all show bold, clear. Doubling, something that instantly catches the eye and makes the coin visually stunning. The second error is a repunched mint mark where the D for Denver was struck more than once at slightly different positions, creating a shadowy double or even triple D effect that is highly desirable. The third error is a broad strike where the coin was struck without the retaining collar in place, causing the design to spread wider than normal and leaving distorted edges. And the fourth error is a significant die crack running across the obverse, a raised jagged line that shows the die itself was breaking during the striking process. And when you add all of these errors together, you get a coin that is far beyond a typical mint mistake. You get a once-in-a-generation anomaly that collectors dream about. And this is why the 1952 D-Wheat penny with these combined errors has been placed at a value of $182 million. But beyond the technical side, what makes this coin so fascinating is the mystery of how such a coin could have been struck in the first place and how it could have escaped the mint without being detected. Because the US Mint has procedures and quality controls in place to catch flawed coins, yet history has shown us that errors still slip through, sometimes by pure chance, sometimes because of the sheer speed and volume of production, and sometimes, as some speculate, because mint workers intentionally allowed curiosities to leave the facility either as experiments or souvenirs. And this aura of mystery adds an extra layer of excitement, because people love the idea that a coin like this wasn't supposed to exist, and yet here it is defying the odds, sitting in the hands of a lucky collector, and worth more than many pieces of fine art. The Wheat Penny series itself already carries massive collector appeal because it represents a classic era of American coinage, running from 1909 to 1958 with the iconic design of Lincoln on the obverse and wheat stalks on the reverse, and collectors all over the world strive to build complete sets. But within that pursuit the rare era varieties become the crown jewels, and for 1952D this ultra-rare multi-era specimen is the crown jewel of crown jewels, a coin that even billionaires would battle for in an auction. And when the wealthy compete for one-of-a-kind items the price knows no ceiling, which is why a coin that is technically just 1 cent in face value can soar to $182 million in market value. Now let's go even deeper into the individual errors and why they matter, because each error on its own would already make a coin desirable, but combined they create a masterpiece of numismatic history. And starting with the double die obverse, this happens when the die that strikes the coin is itself improperly manufactured by receiving more than one impression from the hub that is slightly misaligned, and the result is that when coins are struck, the devices like the date, the motto, and the portrait appear doubled, sometimes subtly, sometimes dramatically, and collectors prize dramatic examples because they are visible without magnification and make the coin look almost like it has a shadow or ghost image. And in this 1952 D penny, the doubling is reported to be bold and unmistakable, which makes it immediately stand out. And then we have the repunched mint mark, which in the 1950s was still applied to dies by hand, meaning that a Denver mint worker had to punch the D into each die manually, and sometimes the punch was placed slightly off and then corrected, leaving behind traces of multiple impressions, and varieties like RPMs are highly collectible, with some coins commanding thousands just for this error alone. So imagine a coin that combines both a bold double die and a repunched mint mark, and it doesn't stop there, because the broad strike error adds another dramatic twist, occurring when the coin is struck outside of the collar that normally holds it in place, causing it to spread wider than normal and giving it a distorted shape, something very obvious to even casual observers. And finally, the die crack across the obverse tells the story of a die that was failing, leaving behind raised lines that can cross through design elements like Lincoln's face or the rim. And collectors love these because they serve as visible evidence of the minting equipment's wear and tear. And in rare cases, die cracks can create spectacular patterns, like what some call cuds, when a piece of the die actually breaks away, leaving a blob-like raised area on the coin. So when you put all of these together in one coin, you have a perfect storm of minting chaos captured in copper. Now, what are the possibilities about how such a coin came to be, and why is it so unique? Well, one theory is that it was pure chance, a random alignment of different errors that just happened to coincide in the striking of a single coin. Another theory is that it was intentionally struck and kept as an error coin by a mint employee who knew exactly what they were doing, and over the decades it made its way into private hands. And another possibility is that only a handful of such coins exist, and only one has ever been confirmed, which makes it nearly priceless since collectors place the highest value on items that are one of a kind or nearly so. And no matter which theory you believe, the fact remains that this coin exists and has captured the attention of the numismatic world, and that is why it is valued at $182 million. The appeal of error coins like this goes beyond just collectors too, because they have become cultural phenomena, featured in articles, videos, and even mainstream media stories about how pocket change can sometimes be worth a fortune. And that is why people everywhere are checking their change jars, their old coffee cans of pennies, or boxes of coins inherited from grandparents, hoping to stumble upon a treasure like this. And while the odds are slim, the dream is what fuels the fascination. And every year new discoveries are made of error coins that were overlooked for decades, which keeps hope alive. Another fascinating dimension to this story is the copper composition of the wheat pennies, because pennies from 1952 were made of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, giving them a rich reddish-brown appearance when new, and over time they toned to shades of brown, red. Last 1946 wheat penny. Today's discussion we are diving deep into one of the most fascinating stories of all, a coin that most people would overlook in their pocket change or in an old jar of pennies sitting on a dusty shelf, and yet this coin has the potential to be worth more than most luxury mansions or even priceless pieces of art, and that is the astonishing 1946 wheat penny that has been valued at a staggering $140 million because of its combination of minting errors, production mistakes, and mysterious possibilities that make it not only valuable but almost mythical in the eyes of collectors, historians, and investors alike. And what makes this story so exciting is that the 1946 wheat penny itself comes from a year that is historically important since it was the first full year of peace following World War II, a time when the United States Mint was transitioning back to regular copper alloy coinage after the steel pennies of 1943 and the slight compositional experiments of 1944 and 1945, and so the 1946 wheat pennies mark a return to normalcy. But hidden within that normalcy are a handful of extraordinary anomalies that have become treasures beyond imagination, and the particular 1946 wheat penny that we are discussing today has risen to legendary status because it contains multiple rare errors that somehow occurred during the minting process, a combination so strange and unique that experts believe it may be one of the only known examples, and this has elevated its value to $140 million. An amount that makes people shake their heads in disbelief yet continues to draw interest because when wealthy collectors and institutions fight for ownership of something unique, the price can soar to unimaginable levels. So what exactly makes this 1946 wheat penny so valuable? Let's break it down. Because error coins are not all created equal. Some are minor with small die chips or slight off-center strikes, but others are dramatic, eye-catching, and so rare that they immediately capture the attention of anyone who sees them, and the 1946 penny in question is loaded with dramatic errors, starting with a powerful double die obverse where Abraham Lincoln's portrait, the date 1946, and the inscriptions "In God We Trust" and "Liberty" all show bold doubling, giving the coin an eerie shadow effect that is impossible to ignore. Then we have a repunched mint mark on some Denver-struck examples where the D was punched more than once into the die, creating overlapping impressions, and in this particular $140 million penny the mint mark anomaly is so pronounced that you can see it without magnification, making it all the more desirable. And to add even more to the story, this penny also shows an off-center strike where the design is shifted dramatically, leaving a portion of the blank planchette exposed and creating an unusual crescent-shaped blank space. And then on top of all that there is a massive die crack stretching across the obverse that looks like a jagged scar across Lincoln's profile, something that collectors call a retained cud when the crack is so severe that part of the die almost broke away. And these visible imperfections make the coin unique. But what pushes it over the edge in terms of rarity and value is that there are reports it may also have been struck on the wrong planchette, possibly one left over from the experimental wartime alloys, or even a foreign coin planchette, since the mint at that time occasionally produced coins for other nations. And if true, this would mean that the 1946 wheat penny is not just an error coin but a hybrid of minting history, capturing both a return to peacetime production and a lingering trace of wartime improvisation. And this combination of double die, repunched mint mark, off-center strike, die crack, and wrong planchette error makes it virtually impossible to replicate, ensuring that its value continues to climb. Now let's think about how such a coin could have come to exist, because the US Mint was supposed to have strict quality controls, yet history has shown us that errors slipped through, especially in years when production numbers were extremely high, and 1946 was a year when millions of wheat pennies were struck at Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco mints. And with so many coins being produced at rapid speed, it is not surprising that occasional mistakes occurred, but the likelihood of multiple errors combining into one coin is astronomically low, which is why this piece is considered so special, and some theories suggest that perhaps it was struck intentionally as a mint worker curiosity piece, while others argue it was pure coincidence, a random chance alignment of flaws that passed undetected into circulation. And regardless of the explanation, the fact that it exists makes it priceless to collectors, because in numismatics uniqueness is the ultimate form of value, and this is why billionaires and institutions are willing to spend fortunes chasing after such pieces, knowing that owning them means holding history that no one else can replicate. The wheat penny design itself adds another layer of charm, with Lincoln on the obverse and two wheat stalks flanking 1 cent on the reverse, a design that ran from 1909 until 1958, And collectors love wheat pennies not just for their historical connection, but also because they symbolize an era of American coinage that is now long gone. And within this series, the rarest eras become legends, such as the 1943 copper penny, the 1955 double die, and now the 1946 multiple era specimen that has been crowned with a $140 million value. And what makes these stories so powerful is that they fuel the dream of ordinary people who wonder if they too might stumble upon one of these treasures in their pocket change or an inherited coin jar. Because every year stories surface of people finding valuable coins in the most unexpected places. And while the odds of finding this exact $140 million 1946 wheat penny are nearly impossible, the idea that any coin could hold life-changing value keeps people engaged and passionate about coin collecting. Diving deeper into the details of these eras, the double die obverse is one of the most popular era types because it is both dramatic and easy to recognize, and collectors pay huge premiums for strong doubling, especially in key areas like the date and inscriptions, and this penny reportedly shows bold doubling that is visible without magnification, which instantly elevates it above lesser varieties. The repunched mint mark is another classic era that adds uniqueness, especially since during this era mint marks were applied to dies by hand, meaning no two punches were ever exactly the same, and eras like RPMs, repunched mint marks, are highly studied and catalogued by specialists. Then the off-center strike makes the coin stand out even further since casual observers can immediately notice that the design is shifted, which makes the coin look almost like a misprint on paper currency. And era collectors love this because it is visually dramatic, and the die crack adds a final flourish of minting chaos, showing the wear and tear on minting equipment that should have been retired but was pushed to keep up with production. And when you put all of this together, you get a masterpiece of imperfection that paradoxically becomes perfect in the eyes of collectors. But the possibilities do not stop there, because as mentioned earlier, there are rumors and reports that the coin may have been struck on the wrong planchette, perhaps one intended for a foreign contract or a leftover from the wartime steel or brass alloys. And if verified, this would make the coin even rarer since wrong planchette errors are among the most coveted in the hobby, with some wrong planchette coins already commanding 6- and 7-figure prices on their own. So when combined with multiple other dramatic errors, the result is almost priceless. And the value of $140 million is not as far-fetched as it may seem when you consider the broader world of collectibles, where unique items like rare paintings, ancient manuscripts, or even sports memorabilia have fetched hundreds of millions, and coins are no different because they are not just money but pieces of art, history, and culture. And when you combine rarity with demand and the prestige of ownership, the price can reach astronomical levels. And this is why the 1946 wheat penny with its dramatic combination of eras has reached a valuation of $140 million, because it is not simply a coin, it is a one-of-a-kind artifact that tells the story of America's history, its minting practices, its post-war era, and the endless fascination humans have with rare and unique objects. And what makes all of this even more thrilling is the idea that such a coin could still be out there, hiding in a collection or forgotten jar, waiting to be discovered, because while known to experts, not every specimen has surfaced, and the world of numismatics is full of surprises.